Welcome to Samba TV's holiday shopping webinar. I'm Verna DeJesus, SVP of Sales and Partnerships, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Dallas Lawrence, our head of comms and brand. Say hi, Dallas. He's here to spread some holiday cheer.
Hi, everybody.
For those of you unfamiliar, Samba is a global leader in TV technology that powers real-time insights and audience targeting. So this enables advertisers to connect with their audience across any screen. Today, we're going to unpack some holiday shopping trends, as consumers are shifting how they shop and consume content, mixed with like the really complicated, complex economic outlook right now. We are on pace to see one of the most unique shopping seasons in recent history. So we've decided to partner with a third-party global research firm, HarrisX, to survey more than 2,500 adults across the US, every possible demographic group. This allows us to get a pretty holistic view on what's happening, how are people feeling, and Dallas is going to dive into that shortly. But before I hand it over to him, I do want to call out, we welcome your questions. We want to make this engaging and have your participation. So you can submit questions at any time during the Zoom, use the Q&A feature throughout the webinar, and we'll make sure to carve out some time at the very end to answer them live. But now over to you, Dallas.
All right, thrilled to be with you all. We are in for an action-packed couple 25 minutes here. It is hard to believe, buckle up. It is 90 days until December 25. And that means that the holiday season is well among us and the holiday shopping season has already well begun. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. I'm very excited to walk you through this research. This is the 5th year that I've done this research with the Harris Polling Company. And we're seeing some really interesting trends emerge that will have significant impacts both on how consumers shop this holiday season, but really importantly for this audience, how brands and advertisers need to reach them. As Verna mentioned, we did partner with Harris, over 2,500 folks surveyed across the United States. I'll show you a couple on the right here of this screen, demographic folks included in this poll, simply to highlight our ability to cut this data 200, 300 different ways. So we're going to talk a little bit today about millennials and parents and cord cutters. But if you're interested in people looking to buy a car in the Midwest or parents with multiple kids looking to take a holiday vacation, we can cut the data in multiple different ways. And I would encourage you to reach out to Verna and her team if you're interested in a more particular or specific deep dive. But we're going to cover 5 things today. The first is really the macroeconomic sentiment of the holiday shopper, which is going to shape really the outcome at the cashiers this holiday season. The second is spending plans. We're going to answer that eternal question. Back to my retail days when I worked for a large retailer, I know that boardrooms are being stuffed with individuals right now wondering, are the holidays going to happen? The good news is they are going to happen, and we'll tell you exactly how much folks plan to spend this holiday season. The next question is critical. How are they going to spend? What are they going to spend on? Where are they going to spend? We'll unpack that as well. A major new trend. So keep alert for that we're seeing pop this year as we see a bit of a return to normalcy amongst consumers. Number 4 here, we're going to talk about the evolving path to purchase. And we have a first ever in the history I've been doing this research we'll unveil today that will really have significant impacts for how we think about reaching consumers, both over the next 90 days, but over the next several years going into the future. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with a couple little snapshots just to show kind of the differences between Gen Z and millennial and parents, but more importantly, also to show our ability to really cut this data in numerous different ways for folks who are interested in getting a deep dive in their particular consumer segment. So let's get right into it. No shock for it's been a tough year for a lot of consumers. 2/3 of consumers believe the economy has been on the wrong track the past 12 months. And women more than men have felt this consideration over the past 12 months. This is a really critical indicator in many cases for how you're thinking about where you sit in your current economic situation, and therefore how you might be thinking about spending. What's particularly interesting about this data is we are starting to see the differentiation amongst age groups and generations about how you feel about your economic standing. It's going to be a recurring thread of this presentation that how you think about your standing, how you're thinking about shopping often depends upon the year in which you were born. So starting with this data point, what you see is older Americans, those over 45, are those who have believed the last 12 months have been the most hard. 70% of those believe the past 12 months the economy's been on the wrong track. Going to the other end of the spectrum, those under 35, you see that drop, still significant, 59%. There is an emerging sweet spot, and that's that core of the millennial generation, 35 to 44, who a majority of that generation does not believe the economy has been on the wrong track in the last 12 months. And they're going to actually spur significant spending that we'll talk about in the next couple of minutes. So that's how we feel about the last 12 months. And usually that's a very important indicator. However, the most important indicator is how do you feel about the next 12 months? Not just the next 90 days, but how do you feel about your own current economic situation? And what we're seeing is a majority of Americans actually believe that the economic situation will not worsen in the next 12 months. 52% believe the economy will either get better or stay the same. Importantly, is that data point on the right. 1/3 believe it will improve. Those optimistic souls are going to be out in force this holiday season shopping and spending. And they're going to be a big reason why the overall holiday shopping number does pretty well. So let's answer the $52 million question. And that question is, what's going to be the impact of the cash register this year? The good news is that 3 in 4 US adults are planning to spend the same money this year on holiday shopping. So 3/4 will spend the same or more this holiday season than they spent last year. Looking back at that group of optimistic millennials we talked about earlier, 83% of that group will spend the same or more this holiday year. So what's the $52 million number, or we like to call it here the $1,041 number? That's what the average shopper in the US plans to spend this holiday season, $1,041. Now, again, looking back to that trend that we saw, some of where we see the breaks and differentiations in demographics, women were more concerned about the economy, felt they had been impacted in a more negative way the past 12 months. They, more than men, are going to spend less this holiday season. This is not a huge trend line. We've seen a huge break from trends. As I've been doing the survey over the past couple of years, we traditionally, women report initially planning to spend less, and men report initially planning to spend more. So it's a significant difference between the two, but not a huge break from past trend lines. Digging a little bit deeper, while I did mention there are 90 days left of the holiday shopping season, the reality is it's been going on for almost 50 days. A majority of folks will have started their shopping in the next month or two, but the key numbers to look at here, 1 in 5 holiday shoppers began shopping before September, including 1 in 4 parents. And what's driving those parents is a really bad experience last year. Bad experience with supply chain issues, empty shelves, not being able to get the toy or the product of the year, shipping delays. So they have turned out earlier and enforced to make sure they don't have those complications coming down the line. Interestingly, and we're going to spend a decent amount of time today talking about the in-store shopper, because the in-store shopper is kind of seeing a resurgence over the last couple of years where they stayed home. In-store shoppers, those who plan to spend most of their holiday shopping in stores, are the biggest procrastinators. 1 in 5 will wait to start shopping until December. So if you are looking at that resale counter and clicker and counting the people coming into your doors and you're thinking, oh my God, those guys at Samba told me holiday shopping was going to happen. Where are those shoppers? Don't worry. A big chunk of them aren't coming until December. But as I said, overall, majority of all American adults will have begun their shopping by Black Friday. So let's talk about that return to normalcy. Nothing says normal during the holiday season like grabbing your pumpkin spice latte and heading down to your mall and looking at those windows decorated with all those amazing decorations. And that is coming back this year. We are seeing a strong desire after 2 years of COVID issues to have a return to normalcy back in the store. 31% of all US adults report they will do most or all of their shopping in store this holiday season, compared to 24% who said most or all of their shopping online. This is a switch. For the last 2 years, we expected for the last 2 years, we had more people report planning to do most of their shopping online than in store. Not a big surprise. Stores were closed. You had COVID mandates, but that return to normalcy is fueling us back into the retail environment, with 1 in 4 shoppers actually planning to increase their in-store shopping from last year. For the brick and mortar retail outlets, the even better news is not only are they coming, but they're coming to spend. Those who plan to spend most or all their money in store plan to spend $1,200 this holiday season, compared to those who plan to spend most of their money online, planning to spend about $850. So about a 40% delta for those coming into the store primed for purchase. And really nothing says back to normal than Black Friday. We've seen Black Friday take some hits over the last couple of years. Obviously, COVID was a major driver of those cuts. What we saw is amongst those surveyed this year, they said 62% of them said they shopped on Black Friday last year and 61% shopped on Cyber Monday. asking those same people their plans this year, a significant increase. Anytime you see a 10-point move, 9-point move, that is significant. So we plan to see a significant return to Black Friday, to deal days like Cyber Monday. Again, a lot of this being driven by those two big competing pressures that keep popping up on the polls. The first one, return to normalcy. I want to get back. I want to get in the store. I want to do Black Friday shopping. The second one, this concern about inflation, this concern about pricing and knowing I've got to find the best deal, and the belief that these two holiday shopping moments are probably the best moments for them to engage in that environment. So a lot of excitement around kind of getting back in store, those key kind of tentpole moments for us as consumers returning into the pipeline. So what are we going to shop for? What's really interesting this year is for the last 4 years, the number one item people would shop for on the list was gift cards. Everyone's buying gift cards for everybody. For the first time, clothing is the number one item people are thinking about shopping for this season. And when you dig into the data, what you see is a hunger for normalcy. I want to get out of the house. I'm returning to my life. I've been wearing board shorts and a polo t-shirt for my Zooms for the last 2 years. I need new clothes to get out in this world and enjoy myself. And so that is really driving the significant insight in people looking to shop for clothing. Clothing traditionally has been like 3 or 4 on the list. I've never seen it number 1. I don't think I've even seen it be number 2. So there's a real desire to kind of redo the wardrobe. Interestingly, that plays into the second trend. And that is, if you look at who we're planning to shop for, children, they always win. They always get the largest share of wallet. And that is very much true this year. Shopping for ourselves is really surging. So what we're seeing is we plan to spend about as much on ourselves as our significant others. And that plays to this trend, this feeling of, it has been a tough 2 years. I deserve something. And what we're saying in this case is, I deserve a new wardrobe and I deserve to get out. And so I think that's going to be a real trend that we see across the holiday season. Playing off this self-gifting concept, what we're seeing is, again, I mentioned the clothing is the biggest item. Women plan to spend more of their budget on clothing than men, but really, men really feel like they deserve to self-gift themselves significantly. Men plan to spend more than a third, 38% of their entire budget on themselves. Women, far more generous, plan to spend more money on their friends and family and their kids and their significant other, but still looking to spend about 30% overall of their entire holiday budget gifting for themselves. So that is, if we step back and look at kind of the macro situation of the holiday shopper and just to kind of put a bow on it, macroeconomic conditions have yet impacted holiday shopping intentions. A big significant number, not a majority yet, but a big significant number of shoppers have already started their holiday shopping. Half will have begun by Black Friday, kind of the official starting season most people consider for the holiday shopping season. Half will have already begun making their purchases. They're going to be thoughtful about what they buy. They are thinking. An interesting trend is while they plan to spend the same or more, they are already anticipating being able to buy less gifts because of inflation impact. So they're going to be thoughtful and look for those great deal days and those great moments, and they're coming in store. So I think that's where we sit today. Now, I'm excited to share the next slide with you, and I think it's probably the single biggest data point of this research. As a data guy who loves to dig into the stuff, when I saw this number come back, it was almost kind of made the hair stand up on the back of my neck as a moment that we will be remembering as we talk about the consumer landscape. So we're going to unpack for you next kind of this and how consumers are engaging with content, and importantly, how we need to be thinking about reaching them. But here's the headline. For the first time in at least the 5 years I've been doing this poll, a majority of American adults report they no longer have a traditional linear TV subscription. Only 48% of Americans have that. Only 50% of parents. So half or less of Americans today, depending on which group you're going after, and way less when you think about younger folks, have a traditional linear television subscription today. Just 1 in 3 Gen Z consumers today have that traditional linear cable TV or satellite subscription. I call out Gen Z, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I'll even give you a little hint. They're going to spend more than anybody else this holiday season, and they are the least reachable on traditional television. So this really, as we think about the first section of this discussion today, the macroeconomic conditions shaping how what they're going to buy, how we reach them is really being shaken here by this sea change moment in at least America, where a majority of households and a majority of adults no longer have that linear subscription. We expect to see this trend obviously continue outside the US as other trends have. Digging in more deeply, that TV on the wall has become much more a part of your day than a central part where you're zoned in on, and that's all you're engaging in. What we're seeing, what's fascinating, is this ability and desire of consumers to be supreme multitaskers. So 83% of consumers report they regularly multitask while watching television. They're on social media, they're shopping. The lesson for us as marketers is that is a phenomenal way to rethink that sales funnel. How are you connecting that television ad they're seeing with the ability to reach them on that mobile device, or reach them via social media, or reach them via online video? How do we think differently since, taking a look at moms, for example, 43% of moms, no shock here, moms are the best multitaskers in the world. Almost half of moms are shopping regularly on their phone, buying items while watching television. That completely flips our traditional thinking of the sales funnel from television being this awareness and everywhere else is for performance. We can now think about that TV connected to the other devices in her hand as the full funnel experience if we just rethink and evolve our approach to reaching consumers this holiday season. So digging a little bit deeper, I mentioned social. One of my favorite data points this year, because I love looking for the generational splits. We've been waiting to see some breaks between millennials and Gen Zs. There haven't really been enough Gen Zs over the age of 18 until this year to start to see a generational break, especially enough Gen Zs in the workforce. And what we're now starting to see is some interesting trends. So first, just taking a pause on social media. Social media is a key vehicle for reaching holiday shoppers this year. It's the second biggest place for consumers overall to get holiday shopping ideas after friends and family. What's interesting, however, is for the first time, Facebook is not the #1 destination for all age groups. TikTok is now the #1 social media platform for Gen Z, those under 25, to get gift giving ideas. Mombook or Facebook is still a key platform for other folks, but it's not for this demographic. So again, speaking to that need to have a multi-channel, kind of omni-channel approach and how we're reaching consumers, but also understanding the differences in how we're breaking out by generation is becoming really important this year. Digging a little bit deeper as well to new paths to purchase, I love some of these data points because it really challenges us as marketers to think differently, both about how we're targeting, but also about the creative that we're delivering into that household, onto that biggest screen in the house. 1 in 5 millennials have made a purchase directly through their connected TV. They've taken that remote and they've clicked it and said, buy now. That has completely shattered our thinking about traditional television advertising as being that awareness function. It is now a performance driver if you want it to be. You can drive that consumer in. 1 in 3 millennials have made purchases through QR codes, helping us think differently about the creative we're putting up on that screen. We want to engage them, draw them in deeper, have them take an immediate action with that ad. They're ready to do it. They just want us to engage with them in the ways in which they want to now have these engagements with brands. I love this last data point because we started asking this about 2 years ago about connected devices in the house. I will not mention their names because I don't want everyone's devices to start pinging off who's listening today or the ones in my room here, but you know who they are. You know them and you love them. And 1 in 3 adults today use those devices to research shopping items for holiday and for other gift giving ideas. So again, thinking about that whole universe of how we can now reach the consumer, in many cases anchored off the TV, is really becoming a powerful moment for all of us to think differently about this holiday season. So I'm going to pause for a second and just go a quick recap on kind of overall where we're seeing this path to purchase. Really the top line number, the sea change moment in consumer engagement. A majority of American adults no longer have traditional television. This is not anecdotal data. This is not looking at a small snapshot. This is consumer research self-identifying. Nope, I don't have it. It is a huge moment and it cuts across every generational cohort. So it's really been a powerful moment for us to think about this. This birth of the omni-channel, always on multiple devices consumer is really a powerful lens through which we need to be viewing this. And then thinking about that TV as more of an anchor. It is the center of where things are happening, and there are moments and opportunities to spring off it is really becoming powerful with all this cross-screen usage and devices simultaneously. So I'm going to quickly go through a couple slides on some generational cohorts and breakouts. and then we'll break for questions and a recap. So just looking at millennials, we talked about them quite a bit. A couple stats I would throw out here that I think are particularly interesting. And this whole report is available for download. So don't feel like you got to write anything down. There's a lot of data on these slides. But they are planning to spend more than the average adult. They have that optimism for the future of the economy. Again, remaining that 35 to 45-year-old cohort does not believe the last 12 months have been particularly bad for them and has more optimism about the future. They don't have a traditional television subscription. They do stream a lot, but the last data point in the bottom right-hand corner is the kicker. I've been in the marketing and communication space a long time, and especially in the streaming space. And the broad belief is, yes, they've all left linear, but they're unreachable to us today. They've gone behind these subscription walls and we can't get them. And what this data tells us is that's absolutely not true. Just looking at millennials, which is the largest spending cohort as a group, they will spend hundreds of billions of dollars this holiday season. 9 in 10 of them watch advertising video subscription channels, AVOD channels. They are engaging in advertising channels. They're waiting to have us engage with them on these channels. Now, obviously, we have inventory issues. There's not enough yet. Very exciting the next couple of weeks. Netflix will be launching theirs, which will be a huge opportunity for premium and content to engage. Disney Plus following later. But I think the key takeaway here is millennials are primed and ready and used to watching AVOD services. That's really good news for us as we think about how to reach the consumer on the biggest screen in the house after they've left linear television. Taking a look at Gen Z, just really briefly, I think there's no doubt about it. They're going to spend more individually than anybody else. They're optimistic about the future. They have, a lot of hopes and plans and aspirations. So they are a big target audience. They plan to spend a lot. 2/3 of them completely unreachable this holiday season on traditional linear television. And lastly, we'll take it home with parents. Last but not least, we got to finish with the ones who brought us here. None of us would be here without our parents. Parents plan to spend more as well. So kids should be doing good this holiday season at $140 more than others. Parents are streamers. They've left traditional television. Again, some of these same trend lines. And the goal of helping to hopefully repeat this is now becoming a ubiquitous thread across every generational cohort, high income, low income, racial demographics, geographic demographics. We have shifted how we're engaging with content today, and we're not going back. COVID accelerated this by a couple of years, but it's not going to revert back to normal from a content engagement perspective. So with that, I will turn over to my colleague, Verna, who'll take us home.
Thanks, Dallas. All right, that was a lot. So here's my hot take. 1, women are more generous than men. So that's a very interesting tidbit that I'm going to work into the holiday season as much as I can. And 2, the other really big thing that jumped out at me is over half of US adults no longer have linear TV. So these are people who are going to be spending billions this holiday season. And what's even more astonishing is the fact that the younger you go, when you go into millennials and then even Gen Z, there's even less of them that have a sub. 2 of 3 Gen Z respondents to the survey said they don't even have a TV sub. Half of them are probably like, what's a TV sub? So what does that mean? Investing primarily in linear, you're going to miss out on over half the US adults, especially the youngest cohort who's planning to spend the most this holiday season. So here's where our team can help you. Like, we have tools and capabilities which allow you to do just an incremental reach strategy where we can target those audiences that you weren't able to, to kind of engage with via linear TV. Our technology allows us to tap into those that were not exposed to your linear buy and only just message them. More recently this year, we introduced a new buying model called the ICPM, which is incremental impressions model. So think about that. It allows you to only pay for those that were unexposed to your linear campaign, eliminates waste. You can unlock significant incremental reach as a result of it. Another thing that really jumped out at me, and I'm guilty of this, the amount I spend shopping on my phone is really embarrassing, but I'm not the only one. 3 out of 4 respondents to the survey, that's 75%, have made a mobile shopping purchase. And often they're doing it while they're watching TV. 83% of them are doing that. So Dallas touched on this, multitasking moms. They're watching TV, they're probably online, buying household goods, but also, treating themselves. To Dallas's point, those of us have been working from home, I serve a new wardrobe. So, they're doing this while they're sitting on the couch. And then I really think, as the marketers that tune in today, it's incredibly important to make sure that you are leveraging these tactics in the right way, right? So Another thing that has super helpful that we've been bringing to our partners is the ability to leverage direct purchases via CTV with QR codes. As Dallas mentioned, 1 in 3 millennials have made purchases using a QR code. We have partners like Innovid and others that allows us to leverage this creative canvas that is sitting in your living room. So lots to unpack here. We got like 4 minutes left. So as Dallas said, shopping is back. People are still planning to spend online and in store, despite economic fears for older cohorts. The younger cohorts are a lot more optimistic and they do not find shame in spending on themselves. Unlike millennials and Gen Z are the most optimistic. They're going to be driving the crux of that spend. So it's imperative, reach them where they are, make sure your messaging is relevant without oversaturating them. We can help you augment your Q4 strategy to leverage an omni-screen approach that includes reach and frequency tools, as well as like closed loop conversion measurement. And, you know, with 3 minutes left, we got a little bit of time left to answer some of your questions. So, all right, Dallas, first question for you. I feel like you and I harped on this quite a bit. Gen Z really hates us. Maybe that's showing our age, but what is it about Gen Z being the biggest spenders this season? Why do you think they feel this way?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's not a super profound answer. It's more just a what we see in the data and human behavior. Younger cohorts tend to be more optimistic about the future, so that's one. Secondly, younger cohorts tend to have a lot more available cash to spend. They're not buying diapers or formula, or in many cases have a mortgage, or in many cases not even a car payment. And so their ability to just have more free cash is available to them. It is important to keep in mind that while Gen Z will spend the most individually, they will not by anywhere near factor be the largest spending generational cohort. That will be millennials, and it will be millennials for at least the next probably half decade, if not longer, simply because of the size of that generational cohort, but also where they are in their work cycle and their income ability. So very important as we thought those. But it is fascinating to see the divergence starting to happen, just as it happened between those of between 45 and older. It's now happening between those 25 and 26, that 25 to 30 break. We're starting to see a different approach to the universe. You know, we don't call them cord cutters at 25. We call them cord nevers. They've never had one in their house. The concept of paying a cable bill like that is so obscene to them. They can't even wrap their head around it. This is just how they engage with content today.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, taking that onto account, what's the one piece of advice you as a marketer and a former CMO, what's the one piece of advice you tell advertisers to leverage this holiday season?
Look, this is going to sound super self-serving, but so be it. Everyone should close their eyes for a second and imagine someone comes in the room and then says, 50% of our audience is no longer reachable on traditional television. I know that's a scary thought. Have an option that we can try that is risk-free to reach incremental audiences. This is what this ICPM is that Samba launched. It's this ability for you to only pay for audiences that are incremental to your linear television campaign, with a total guarantee that you don't pay for one ad that lands on a screen, whether it's their mobile device, their laptop, or their streaming television, if that household has already seen it on a linear device. That to me is a game changer in this environment where change is tough, change is hard. There's risk aversion, there's concern about not wanting to mess with the holiday media mix or the budget or missing a number. But the opportunity is there, I think, this holiday season to try some new things to test, because this is where the consumer is moving. They're not coming back, and the movement is actually kind of moved into a full-on stampede, and we need to make sure we're following the consumer where they're now spending the majority of their time.
Well, Dallas, right to the minute, it is at the 30 mark. So unfortunately, we couldn't answer the other questions, but please reach out to us, reach out to the team if you have anything that we couldn't address today. There is a QR code there. We took the insights that we got from the poll.
QR codes, pay for QR
codes, everyone's using them. So if you want to dive into the research further, scan the QR code, you can download it immediately. We also have the on our website, you can download the report there, and we are here to help. So reach out to us, and thank you so much for joining us. And Dallas, thanks for bringing the holiday share to everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.